All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to continue in chapter 11 of Dragonwings on page 275. In the last little bit of reading, we found out that they are ready to fly Dragonwings, and we learned that Dragonwings is what they've named their flying machine. So we're going to see how this pans out. We're kind of at the top-ish of 275. Here we go. It was around the end of that same August of 1909 that I began to get jumpy, like I was being watched sometimes from the trees, sometimes from the vacant mansion. At first, I told myself it was just nerves. After all, I was getting positively ancient, for I was now 15, or 14 by demon reckoning. It was not so much my age that bothered me. It was the fact that after 6 years here in the land of the Golden Mountain, I had even less chance of seeing Mother. I was proud of Father for wanting to be a dragon again, and even prouder of the fact that he was now so close to achieving his ambition to fly. I was just sorry that we had not been able to combine his more lofty goals with the more ordinary dream of seeing Mother. Of course, Father thought he could, but even so, his scheme had an awful lot of ifs in it. But Mother was patient, and so I had to be too. And then the feeling that there was someone or something else around kept on growing inside me. Sometimes at night when I came back to the barn, I would find a chair where I was sure it had not been, or books misshelved. But with no real definite proof, I held my peace. On the first Sunday in September, we had the Whitlaws down to help us christen Dragonwings. The night before, Father and I had spent all our time painting scales on the wings. As an extra touch, Father had painted eyes on 2 squares of canvas and added them to the front rudders. They hung limp now, but during the night they would flap like flags. After they had admired our paint job, Miss Whitlaw produced a small bottle of wine. "For the christening," she said, "whatever it is to be named." "Dragonwings," Father said. "That's a funny name," Robin said. "Ah, well, it's a lucky name," Father shrugged. His dream was still something very special and very private, and not to be shared with the Whitlaws. Robin wrapped both her hands around the neck of the bottle and tapped it lightly on the frame. None of us was very sure about how strong the frame really was. The bottle broke, and Robin ignored the wine stains on her dress to declare it in a very solemn voice, "I christen you, Dragonwings." But it was mid-September before we could even think of flying Dragonwings. The rains did not clear until that second week of September, near the time when we had to pay our rent. The deliveries were light on the 6th day of the week, and after I finished my chores at the store, I was let off early. But when I got home and opened the side door to the barn, I found Black Dog there, rummaging through our bedding. He sat down on a stool when he saw me. "Howdy do, Moonshadow." "What are you doing here?" "Can't one cousin visit another cousin? It's a lonely country. Maybe I missed the sight of your monkey's face." He bent his elbow and scratched himself like a monkey for a moment. He had always tried to make jokes like that, but they were never very funny. I saw that time had not been very kind to him. "Do you want some tea before you go?" I asked. Black Dog smiled coldly. "You have all my father's charm intact. Do you know that?" "What do you want?" He waved a hand at an old overstuffed chair we had found in the mansion and brought into the barn. "Come, sit and talk with a lonely man." His voice grew hard when I remained standing. "I said sit." "I'll stand, if you don't mind." Black Dog shrugged. He leaned forward and clasped his hands together, resting his elbows on his knees. We never did get to finish that talk we began a long time ago. About what? About those two lovers to whose memory I have consecrated myself. You mean the demon Dung? Black Dog laughed and regarded me in a cold, shrewd way. I want you to tell me about the thing you find yourself married to, your life, that is. I want you to tell me why you don't think your life is ugly. He waved a hand around. You live by yourself, with your father, whom you hardly see. You live in a place unfit even for animals. It is cold in the winter and an oven in the summer. Your clothes are patched. You are undernourished because all your money goes into this demon contraption that you are not even sure will work. And you don't think your life is ugly? What do clothes or food or a house mean? I shrugged. Suddenly, I realized something. You're jealous, aren't you? You're jealous that we have something to believe in. Black Dog stopped scratching his leg and slipped his hand into his boot. He pulled out a knife. I'd like you to find the beauty in my cutting off your nose and ears. He got up slowly. He was smiling to himself. Yes, I'd like you to try to tell people how beautiful you are with only a stub of a tongue. I grabbed the nearest thing to hand. It was one of Father's books. I threw it at Black Dog, but he ducked. He came toward me slowly, the knife gleaming in his hand. I turned and darted out the door. Black Dog was right behind me. I could hear his boots pounding the ground. I ran through the tall flowers in the garden and made it into the orchard. I wanted to take a shortcut through the orchard to the road leading down the town, but then my foot caught in a root. I fell forward into the weeds and old leaves. I got up on my hands and knees and caught Black Dog's boot in my ribs. I toppled over onto my back. He drove a knee hard into my stomach. Or maybe I'll just take a testicle or two. He let up on my stomach a bit so I could breathe. I suppose he wanted me to get enough air so I could beg. But I suddenly got sick of the whole cat and mouse game. Go on, I told him. Get it over with then. You won't be singing that tune the first time the knife breaks your precious skin. When I did not say anything, Black Dog smiled. Well, you're a plucky lad, though you're a fool. I'll let you off easily if you tell me where you keep your money. No. He jabbed his knee into my stomach and pressed the knife point against my throat. Come on. Tell me where the money is. You just said yourself that money wasn't important. Dragonwings is. We heard a branch snap then. Black Dog did not look around. He kept the knife to my throat. I felt my throat muscles begin to tighten as if they were trying to crawl away from the point. Don't take another step, Black Dog warned. I can cut your son's throat before you can jump me. Don't harm him, Father said. I heard him walk around from behind us until he stood in front of Black Dog. How important is that demon contraption to you? Black Dog asked. It is very important. More important than your son's life? Don't tell him, Father, I said. No, Father said. I'll get the money for you. Father, don't! But I saw Father walk over to a nearby oak tree. An old, battered birdhouse swung from one of its branches. Father reached up. Even he had to stand on tiptoe to get it. He took it down and pulled off the rooftop. It was only tacked on lightly with very small nails. He took the money out, a thin roll of demon dollar bills, and tossed the birdhouse down. He put the bills into his big handkerchief and tied up the corners into a bundle. And then he tossed it over to Black Dog. Black Dog snatched it up like a hungry dog after a bone. He stuffed it into his pockets. I should slit your son's throat anyway. And you know I'd never rest until I got even with you. Yes, I respect you at least that much. Black Dog got up and ran off into the trees. I started to get up to chase him, but felt suddenly dizzy. I must have banged my head when I fell, and my chest where he'd kicked me felt suddenly tight. I fell forward. Moonshadow, Father said. He bent over me. Go after him, I said. That bastard, that son of a... You know what. He's still our cousin, despite what Uncle did, Father said sternly. He helped me back into the stable and brewed some tea. Father poured a cup for me from the teapot and gave it to me. I drank it. Outside, I could hear the rain. I'm sorry you had to tell him. Father patted my arm and managed a smile. It doesn't matter. I'm going to report this to the sheriff now. Do you think it might do any good? It might. Father grinned and shrugged. And it might not. It was getting near sunset now. I could see the red light within the barn. Our rent money had been in that roll, as well as the money we had planned to use for renting a wagon and the team of horses. What were we going to do for money now? I didn't know. Well, the sheriff never did catch Black Dog, and the next day when the landlord came around for his rent, he got mad at Father when Father asked him for an extension. He gave us 3 days to come up with the money, or he'd claim everything inside the place. But we didn't know anybody in the town we could borrow money from. They all thought of Father as the crazy Chinaman. We knew beforehand that Miss Whitlaw did not have any money she could lend us out, for Robin's college money was sacred and untouchable, even if we were inclined to ask. And Father was too proud to go back to the company. We had to go, but how? Dragonwings was too big to be carried on our backs, and we had no money to hire a wagon. We tried all the next day, but no one would rent to us on credit, not to the crazy Chinaman. Even my employer in the store refused, saying it was too much money. It looked like we were stuck. We would be able to take away only what we could carry. We were going to lose our Dragonwings. Father did not say anything when I put on my boots and hat and went down to the town through the rain to use the store's electric talker, or telephone, as the demons called it. I wound the crank with a whirring sound, and when the operator came on, I gave her the number of the house where the Whitlaws worked. Why, hello, Moonshadow, Miss Whitlaw said. How are you? Fine. I'm afraid you won't be able to come down tomorrow. We're moving. Oh? Found a better place? Yes, that's it. Well, let us give you a hand. No, I couldn't think of it. Nonsense. There's always work to be done. Expect us there right after church. No, please, you mustn't come, I said desperately. There was a pause at the other end of the line. Is there something wrong? She finally asked. No, everything's just fine. Well then, why can't we come over? She demanded. We'll just be busy. So busy you don't need help? Miss Whitlaw asked suspiciously. Yes, that's it, I said, and hung up before she could ask me anything else. The rain had stopped by the time I got back. I could not make out where Father was in the barn when I first got back. Then I made out a shadowy figure sitting near Dragonwings. Father? He stirred in his corner. I heard a groping at the stove, and then he struck a match, and the light flared about his face as he bent over the kerosene lamp, intent on lighting it. He shook the match out and then trimmed the flame. Then and only then did he look up. He fumbled painfully for the right words. It's finished, he finally said. We still have a day to raise the money, I said grimly. You will not go to Uncle, Father said. He ran his hand lightly along the lower wing. He stood up suddenly and got his padded jacket from the nail on the wall. He put it on silently and gestured to me to accompany him. Outside, the night was a cool, crisp autumn evening. The rain had just washed everything, seeming to sharpen the plants' smells. The colors seemed brighter, and the beaded raindrops gleamed like jewels on the petals of the flowers and the leaves of the trees. It was clear for a moment, but I could see the fog beginning to move over San Francisco. I could not see how people could stand to live in the flatlands when they could live in the hills. There is something about the view from the hill that is exciting, a kind of godlike perspective in which men become only tiny creatures walking about their toy houses on a patch of land which seems to float on a vast ocean under an even bigger sky. Father started to trudge up the hill. I had to run to catch up with him. The road was muddy, and our boots made wet, sucking noises. My jacket was not really thick enough to hold out the wind, and I pulled the collar tighter around my neck. It was a cold, sharp wind, but with a salt sea smell. Father glanced at me, but still he said nothing. The setting sun behind us cast long shadows, which raced up and up ahead of us along the road. And then at the very top of the hill, we turned off, walking to the very edge of it and looking down on the barn below us. Father crossed his arms, slipping his hands into his armpits to keep them warm. So this is the way it ends, he said finally. We came so close, and yet we failed. The fog had completely covered San Francisco now, and was rolling over the bay toward Oakland. It was as if the world below us were slowly fading away like the dream it was, and only we existed now on a tiny island of reality here on this hilltop. Maybe this is the final test in this life, I suggested, hopefully. Father thought for a bit and laughed. Yes, maybe it is. We can build another Dragonwings. You have your designs now, and we know all the tricks of actually building an aeroplane. Father grunted, and he smiled in his old way. And then he tilted back his head and began to sing. There's a little beauty in the opening of the flower. There's a little glory, though it only lasts an hour. There is a little sorrow in the final farewell kiss. There's only a little pain, though you'll never again see your miss. I have a little dream for the flying of a plane. I have a little scheme. I'll follow it yet again. There is a little heaven just around the hill. I haven't seen it for a long time, but I know it's waiting still. Then he clapped his hand on my shoulder. How about a cup of tea to warm our old bones?" he asked. Poor Black Dog. There was some beauty to life after all, even if it was only the beauty of hope. And that's where we're going to stop. Oh man, it's so good. We'll start chapter 12 tomorrow.